My brothers and sisters, what is going on? This is Steel Sermon in the house, Thursday evening. Another video, and it's super wild card weekend as the 2022-23 playoffs are officially underway. For those in my tournament who have clinched playoff spots, congratulations to you 16 members, as the matchups for wildcard weekend are posted on my Instagram. Go check it out to see where you are. If you are curious as to how the playoffs works, it's quite simple. Just treat it like the regular season, although the only mandatory pick that you need is a spread pick. So you still pick all 6 games and all 4 games next week and both championship games and so on. Okay? If you move on, that is. Okay? You still pick all the games, but the one pick that you absolutely need is a spread. Because even if you end up with the same record as your opponent, if you get a spread right, that's the difference. You have a better record than your opponent, you're moving on. You finish up with more points than your opponent does, you're moving on. So that's how that works. And let's get on to it as I finish up the regular season. 177-94. Pretty good regular season for me. Good for the second seed in my conference. Good for a division title, as I'll be going up against the 7th seed in my wild card matchup, and hopefully I can move on. Also want to say that these took me a very long time to think about. 2 games in particular, I think you know which ones I'm talking about. And so that's why this is kind of late. I really wanted to take my time with these and come up with as much thoughts as I possibly could, because I want to get every single game right. That's my goal. I want to get every single game right. I want to get as much correct as I possibly can. I'm probably not going to get all these right. I don't anticipate it. But I want to come on here and give my thoughts about it and be fair to every team. So let's get on to it. It's Super Wild Card Weekend. Let's get on to it. First at bat, we got 2 Saturday games, as we got the 7th seed Seattle Seahawks going to San Francisco to play the 49ers, who are the 2nd seed in the NFC. Seattle making the playoffs via the Lions going into Lambeau and stunning the Packers, which, if you notice, no biggest loser and winner this week, as that is just a regular season thing, although the Packers would easily be my biggest loser and the Lions would easily be my biggest winner for Week 18. But getting back to this one, the Seahawks are in the playoffs first time since 2020. 49ers, they are back in the playoffs for the 3rd time in the past 4 seasons. 49ers swept the regular season between these two in pretty dominant fashion, as the Seahawks were locked down by San Francisco's defense in both games, held to under 20 points in 4 straight games, and the 49ers held the Seahawks to 20 points total in both games. So the Seahawks are limping in here by crutches, to say the least. Geno Smith has struggled big time during this stretch here, looking like a comeback player of the year candidate and an MVP candidate, low-key, to just really struggling big time right now. DK Metcalf having a similar problem for Seattle. Has not scored a touchdown in 4 straight games in that same time frame that the Seahawks haven't been scoring points. So I think the Seahawks really need to utilize Tyler Lockett in this game. Kenneth Walker as well. He's been the anchor of that offense this year. He has been on a tear since Week 15, so I expect him to get a lot of touches in this one. But looking at this, it's just a complete mismatch. For the Seahawks, they got to win the war of the trenches here, but the 49ers counter that easily with their defense. More specifically, my vote for Defensive Player of the Year, and I love this guy, Nick Bosa, 18.5 sacks this season. Absolutely phenomenal season that he's turned in. The 49ers, as far as the run game goes, have not allowed 100 yards rushing all season in a game. So this 49er defense is legit. In my opinion, it's the best in the league, and that is why they are riding a 10-game winning streak. So we know the 49ers are a very dominant defensive unit, but their offense has been very good as well. It is scalding hot. Brock Purdy playing very well, playing very solid football. And that's why Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion, he has to be in the talks for Coach of the Year as well. A 13-4 season for the 49ers, a 10-game winning streak coming in this one. And Kyle Shanahan did all that with 3 different quarterbacks this season. If you remember, Trey Lance, all the way back in week 1, was named their starter this year. He suffered an injury that he suffered a torn ACL, I believe. Then came in Jimmy Garoppolo. 49ers were winning games, but Jimmy G broke his foot. Had to miss the rest of the season. In comes Brock Purdy. 49ers have not missed a beat at all. George Kittle, absolute stud. There ain't no tackle in that guy's tight ends. Deebo Samuel, one of the most innovative players in the game. And, of course, CMC, that trade has worked out in wonders for the 49ers. He gashed Seattle for 108 yards on the ground in their Week 15 game. And, like I said, this is just a complete mismatch right here. It is very difficult, I will say, to beat a division rival 3 times in one season. A couple of times that it has happened that I can remember. My team, the Steelers, we beat the Browns 3 times in one season, twice, in the 94-95 season and 02-03, the first year that I started watching football, 2002. We beat the Browns 3 times in one season, those 2 seasons. We also beat the Ravens 3 times in 2008-2009, the year that we won the Super Bowl. We beat the Baltimore Ravens three times in 3 different uniforms as well. I believe the Dallas Cowboys beat the Eagles 3 times in 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. I'm pretty sure it was 2009, though. No, it was somewhere around there, but I'm pretty sure it was 2009. And the most recent time that I can think of is the Saints beating the Panthers 3 times in 2017. So it is very difficult to beat a division opponent 3 times in one season, but I think the 49ers pull off the hat trick. Like I said, complete mismatch. I think the Seahawks got in there by total luck, while the 49ers, they are just a bona fide Super Bowl contender. I'm going with the 49ers, and this is my spread right off the bat. They're favored by 10. I'm taking that all day. 37-13. San Francisco covers the 10 and gets a little bit more. Give me the 49ers to make it 11 in a row. Okay, this one was the second hardest one for me to decide. I'm pretty sure you guys can know what the hardest one for me to pick was, as I'll be getting into that later. But here's the second hardest one for me to pick this week. It is the Los Angeles Chargers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. You got a battle of 2 young quarterbacks who are both 25 years old in Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. So I think that's an NFL first, actually. 2 quarterbacks at age 25 or younger going up against each other in the playoffs. And they both had pretty similar seasons. Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence both threw 25 touchdown passes on the season, and they both cut down on the interceptions as well. So pretty solid years for both quarterbacks as expected, more so for Justin Herbert. But Trevor Lawrence has really turned in a phenomenal year, all thanks to Doug Peterson down there in Jacksonville, who is currently my top pick to win Coach of the Year. He has done a magnificent job with turning around that Jags franchise. Talking about the Chargers first, I think it's going to have to come down to Keenan Allen's health. I know he's been dealing with a little bit of an injury lately, but even then, Justin Herbert has Josh Palmer and Mike Williams, and I know Mike Williams is a little banged up as well, so I think those are 2 key components as to what the Chargers are going to have to deal with. A big matchup for me personally in this one is Austin Eckler against Jacksonville's pass defense. The Jags are one of them teams that if you're not careful with their pass defense, they're going to lock you down. Jacksonville is a very underrated pass defense, and I think that Austin Eckler going up against that Jacksonville defense the pass defense is going to be a very intriguing matchup here. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa are going to have to do everything they can to keep LA's defense afloat here. Their pass defense is respectable. I expect Derwin James to be on Evan Ingram in this one. But the thing that concerns me the most about LA's defense, and I think this is my biggest X factor in this one, the Chargers statistically are dead last in rush defense. 32nd in the league in rush defense. That is not good at all. And with the Jags having a guy like that Travis Etienne guy, I think he is absolutely going to get a lot of touches in this game, 20 to 25 touches in this game. I expect him to have a really good game in this one if Jacksonville is to pull away in this one. Trey Hendon, if I'm pronouncing his name right, going up against Keenan Allen. I think that's another matchup in this one. And like I was talking about with Jacksonville's defense, if you're not careful, they'll lock you down. They hold wide receivers to 90 this season, which is pretty good. You know, they hold running backs to the lowest rate, so Austin Eckler, again, is just going to have to do everything in his power to have a solid night. Their pass rush is very physical. They are just a very growing team as far as that goes, kind of like Saxonville back in 2017. And they're top 5 in sacks allowed. That offensive line has really stepped up this season. Trevor Lawrence has worked really well with Christian Kirk and Zay Jones and Evan Ingram as well. So, honestly, these two teams, very similar, very good underdog teams. But I think the Jags just have a little more momentum than the Chargers do in this one for 2 reasons. Number 1, Jacksonville's won 5 in a row. They clinched the AFC South. And number 2, the Jags smoked these guys back earlier in the season, at the beginning of the season, I believe. And while regular season does kind of go out the window between when it comes to the playoffs, I just like the momentum the Jags are heading in this one. I am honestly going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's right. I was saying for the longest time that the Chargers can be a team that can be a sleeper in the AFC, but I think they're going to be a little outmatched in this one. I do think that they will give the Jags everything they have, but everything with me just has more advantages for Jacksonville in this one. I really like the key deciding factor for me in this one was the fact that LA has the worst ranked rush defense in the league. So I think the Jags are really going to rely heavily on Travis Etienne here. I am going to go with, after much thought, the Jacksonville Jaguars to pull away and get the job done over the Chargers. All right, this one took me really no time at all to think about. We got the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills up in Buffalo, as the Dolphins, the 7th seed in the AFC. Buffalo is the 2nd seed. These two split the regular season series. Miami winning the first one, Buffalo winning the second one to clinch the East. Really all you need to know about this one, Tua is out for this game with his concussions. Skylar Thompson is going to start in this one for the Dolphins. So, I mean, that's really all you got to think about. But to be fair, I'll be fair and say some things that Miami can do to at least stay in this game. They really got to try something with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill in this one. Anything that Skylar Thompson is capable of doing. They got to play keep them off the field type of offense here. But that's going to be difficult because Raheem Mostert probably won't play in this one. So they got to rely on Jeff Wilson. The defense the Dolphins had, they have held Stephon Diggs in check in both matchups. But again, the defense is just at its problems with covering tight ends. And even though they do have a high blitz rate, Josh Allen's been able to pick it up in both matchups that they played. And that's just something that is just the ultimate deciding factor here for me. Literally anything the Dolphins throw at the Bills at this one, I think Buffalo just overmatches it. The Bills' pass defense is mediocre, but their rush defense is capable of stopping a mobile quarterback and stopping a running back play here. Josh Allen had a great game against the Dolphins the last time they played, and he had a really good game against the Patriots last week. Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, that's enough firepower right there, and I think Dawson Knox absolutely needs to be the X factor here. So again, if Tua was in, I would give Miami more of a chance, but no doubt about it, I'm locking up the Buffalo Bills this week. Give me the Bills to get the job done over the Dolphins, because not only are the Bills playing for that Vince Lombardi trophy, they're playing it for DeMar Hamlin. And they want to win that guy a playoff game, ultimately a Lombardi. Give me the Buffalo Bills to get the job done over the Dolphins. Next up, another challenging one. We got the New York Giants going to Minnesota to play the Vikings. Giants are the 6th seed in the NFC, Minnesota the 3rd seed. So these two met on Christmas Eve. The Vikings pulled away with a win on a 61-yard field goal in the last second by Greg Joseph. But honestly, I think the Giants outplayed Minnesota in that one, and they just kept shooting themselves in the foot with turnovers, and the Vikings were just able to take advantage of it. But I think these two teams are very different coming into this one. Firstly, with the Giants, Saquon Barkley all season, comeback player of the year kind of season. Daniel Jones has improved this season, and they have been determined since week 16. They have been playing with fire since losing that game to the Vikings. I think they have wanted to play Minnesota again ever since dropping that game to them. This team is rested. I know that they played some backups against Philly, and that Giants pass defense, although it was bottom 5 and having to go up against guys like TJ Hawkinson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, and of course the best receiver in the game in my opinion, and Justin Jefferson, that's always a tall order right there. But the Giants are very blitz happy. Something I will say, Kirk Cousins generally does very well against the blitz, but the Giants were able to get to him quite a bit in their Week 16 matchup. Which leads me to the Vikings. Kirk Cousins turned in a pretty solid season, and Dalvin Cook has been efficient this season as well, which is why Minnesota has won as many games they did. Vikings are a little spotty on defense as well. They are 21st in the pass defense this year as well, so expect a guy like Sullivan and Peterson to come through in the clutch with the Vikings in this one and to get some plays in. Their rush defense does well against running backs, but the Vikings seem to struggle with mobile quarterbacks, and we all know that Daniel Jones can use his legs to get out of a sticky situation. They don't blitz as much, but when they do it, they are very physical and they can get some sacks in. So, this one was tough for me to decide, but two things here. Number one, Minnesota peaked too early and they're sputtering right now. You know, ever since that 40-3 loss to the Cowboys, I've been very cautious with Minnesota, and then they get absolutely whipped by the Packers on New Year's, and then they kind of escape with the win against the Giants right here. They're a good team, but I can't call them a Super Bowl contender. I just think that the Vikings are more destined for a one and done than they are for a Super Bowl. And secondly, this is a 4:30 game on Sunday. Kirk Cousins in the playoffs and in late games never does well. We don't know if Daniel Jones can be that type of quarterback or if Brian Daboll can make him be that type of quarterback. But all I'm saying is, when it comes to Kirk Cousins in these type of situations, I don't trust him. So I am actually going to go with Big Blue to go up to Minneapolis and beat the Vikings. That's right, I'm going with the Giants, baby. This is not my upset of the week, as I really do think the Giants are going to come in angry and they're going to want to avenge that Week 16 loss, and they're going to say to them, hey, you know what? You beat us by total luck. We handed you that game, and we're not going to do that again this week. We're going to end your season right here. I'm going with the Giants to get the job done over the Vikings. Then we got another relatively easy one. We got Beavis versus Butthead, Larry versus Moe, whatever you want to call it if you're a Steeler fan. But we got the Ravens versus the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. Yeah, I do not want to see this matchup at all. It's two teams that I really don't like. But it comes down to who I don't like more, and that's easily the Baltimore Ravens. But, something I got to say with the Ravens, Lamar looking like he's not going to play in this game, and Tyler Huntley ain't going to play either, so they are going to have to rely with Anthony Brown once again, who pretty much handed the Bengals that game last week when he threw 2 interceptions to them. So, yeah, Baltimore, in order to be a good team and in order to make some kind of noise in the playoffs, you have to have a quarterback. Ravens just don't have that right now. And they might not have it next year because I honestly think Lamar's going to leave. 3 teams that I think Lamar's going to end up on. Number 1 are the Saints. Number 2 are the Colts. And number 3 are honestly the Dolphins. I think they're going to dump Tua because of his concussion problems. And Lamar going down to Miami, finally getting 2 number 1 receivers in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. That would be something. The Colts are quarterback desperate, although I think Derek Carr has a good shot of ending up there as well. And then, of course, the Saints. The Saints need a quarterback real badly, and we know that Lamar can run, and his running abilities, complemented with Alvin Kamara, would be a deadly 1-2 punch down there in New Orleans. So those are the 3 teams that I think Lamar is going to end up on next year. Or he could probably just chase the money and go to a team like the Jets, but that's just my opinion. In order for Baltimore to be in this game at all, they're going to have their defense rise up again. Their defense is top 5 in points per game. Their blitz and their pass rush does pretty well as well, and I think that they need to get some hits on Joe Burrow as well. So that's the main matchup here. Joe Burrow going up against the Ravens blitz, but the Bengals O-line has stepped up this season, and their pass offense has been top 5 all season. So the Bengals are more than capable of putting points up on the board. They're more than capable of running up the score on you. And this is an offense that has set team records this year for the Bengals. But their defense this year has been elite in most areas. This is a Bengals defense that has really improved this season, and them having to go up a lack of a quarterback against the Baltimore Ravens, I think that's the difference maker here. These two met each other in Week 18, and they're staying in the same venue. I'm going to say the Bengals make it 2 for 2. Give me the Cincinnati Bengals to get the job done over the Baltimore Ravens as the Bengals win the rubber match between these two. Ravens go on home, and who knows the next time they'll make the playoffs. I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals to send the Ravens into rebuild mode. Give me the Bengals. Wrapping up Wild Card Weekend. This was the hardest one for me to pick. We got the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down in Tampa. The Cowboys are the 4th seed in the NFC. The Buccaneers won the NFC South at 8-9, and they're the 4th seed. Or Dallas is the 5th seed, not the 4th seed. I'm sorry. The Cowboys are the 5th seed. Tampa's the 4th seed, but you get the point. Something I got to say here. I'll start with the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, to be blunt, is limping coming into this one. He had a pretty bad game against the Titans in Week 17, and he followed that up with an even worse performance against the Commanders last week. He threw 2 interceptions against them, 1 for a pick 6, and he had a QB rating of 14. The longest run for the Cowboys in that entire game against the Commanders was a mere 7 yards, and it came by their 3rd-string running back. The Cowboys are in deep trouble as far as their offense goes. Oh, and by the way, Dak Prescott now has 7 games with an interception. 7 straight games with an interception, I should say. Dak Prescott has been playing terrible lately. Their rush offense, as I said, a complete dud. 64 total yards on the ground against Washington. So in order for Dallas to have a chance in this one, you got to get CeeDee Lamb involved, and you especially got to get Dalton Schultz involved in this one, in my opinion, because the Bucs defense is elite, but they don't do well against tight ends. So definitely Dak has to have Schultz be his security blanket in this one. Definitely get Tony Pollard involved. He's one of the best two-way players in the league. And the main matchup here, in my opinion, is going to be T.Y. Hilton on Antoine Winfield. Dak does do well against the blitz, but when, the heat is really on, I really expect Tampa's 45 sacks on the regular season to come in and make a difference. Dallas is physical too. They had 54 sacks on the season, including 4 guys down there with 6+ sacks. One of them being Micah Parsons. Secondary, I think it comes down to Trayvon Diggs, and he is the epitome of that entire secondary for the Cowboys. It is hit or miss. It is all or nothing. That is Dallas' secondary to a key. So that's the thing with the Cowboys right there. As far as Tampa goes, we all know it's playoff Brady. We all know he's a completely different animal. But do the Bucs have that narrative this season? Bucs have lacked all year on offense, and there's no excuse with that with the weapons that they have down there. Something about the Bucs defense is that they don't turn the ball over. They don't cause a whole lot of turnovers, so that's kind of a sigh of relief right there if you're Dak Prescott. But they are top 10 in yards per catch this season. I think the biggest X factor here, Leonard Fournette against Dallas's rush defense, similar to Chargers Jags. Leonard Fournette destroyed the Cowboys in Week 1 with 127 yards on the ground, and Dallas's rush defense has been a mess all year. That's the biggest X factor for this one. In conclusion, this is a totally difficult matchup for me to decide. It honestly can go 50-50, but if you want my opinion, even though the Cowboys have beaten Tampa Bay in both playoff matchups that they've had against each other, Tom Brady has never lost to the Dallas Cowboys. And I think that continues this weekend. That's right, my upset of Wildcard Weekend, possibly my upset of the playoffs. I got the 8-9 Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Dallas Cowboys on Monday night in Tampa Bay to stun the Cowboys, who have only won 3 playoff games in my entire life since beating us in Super Bowl 30. I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to beat the Dallas Cowboys. That'll do it. Those are my wildcard weekend picks. For those in the tournament, once again, congratulations for making it. Let's see how you do in wildcard weekend. Let me know what you think down below. This is Steel Sermon checking on out for the night. May God be with you all.